This episode was created with the support of Free FM, Hamilton, New Zealand's community access media organisation. Visit us at freefm.org.nz.
Hello and welcome to another episode of ReThinking Mental Wellbeing. This is our community podcast where we can talk about everything related to depression and anxiety. So my name is Andre and I want to thank you for being with me over the next half an hour as we share the space of lived experience where we can talk about how to live the best version of our authentic life. So, if you're ready, then I'm ready. Welcome to the podcast. So welcome back. If you're joining me for the first time, then look, I want to welcome you to the space and thank you for being here. If you're joining me again, then welcome back to the space. Today's topic is a question I get asked often. It's a topic that all of us have got some experience with, and it's a topic that the World Health Organization has declared as the cause of a global pandemic. And no, I'm not talking about COVID. Today's topic is on loneliness, but we're going to focus this episode on its healthier counterpart, which is connection. As a species, our predominant focus in life is for survival and safety. This is the drive that underpins literally everything that we do in life. It influences all of your decisions and is the lens that we view everything in life through. But this is not just exclusive for us human beings, this is exclusive for us as mammals. And so in order for us to feel safe and survive, we need to employ some features that we can engage with. Some features to increase the chances of survival and safety through the working of these specific mechanisms. There is one design feature that has been incorporated into our makeup as a human being, and this is our need to band together, our need to be in groups, because we know that there is safety in numbers. We understand very early on in our journey as human beings that in order to survive, we needed to band together. But there's another layer that has to be met as a human being, and this was the need to feel safe. Within this need to feel safe, our groups took on a deeper meaning, and it became even more useful, because now we're not just grouping up, we were bonding within these groups. We were connecting. There was a greater meaning and purpose that was being met. We felt significant. We felt we belonged because we connected. And this is our topic for today's episode. This need to feel safe and to be safe is genetically encoded into our DNA. We are born with this need to feel safe, and we are hardwired to know that in order to feel safe, we instinctively know that we should feel safer within a group to get those needs met. We are arguably the dominant species on this little blue dot that we call planet Earth. And we're the dominant species according to ancestral psychology for three main reasons. The first is our prefrontal cortex. This is part of the brain that sits just behind your forehead. It is the part of the brain that makes us clever. It's involved with our executive functioning. It plans for us. It controls our behaviors and impulses, helps us problem solve and make decisions. It also regulates emotions, social connections, and motivation, and it helps us with our reasoning. We also have opposable thumbs, the ability to turn your thumb inward to face and touch the fingers on the same hand. So now we can hold tools to make the clever, creative, and practical things that our prefrontal cortex thought about. And when we combine both of these things, the result of these is the world that we see around us now. The other reason is because of our ability to connect with people and groups of people in order to survive. Within these groups, we can share our knowledge across the group, we can feel safe, we can be a productive and significant group member, and this communication of learned and discovered information allows us in groups to learn and grow and thrive. because we're not designed to exist on our own at the expense of feeling connected, because without connection, we suffer. That's kind of like saying that we are designed to always feel hungry without ever eating. Our biology also knows how important connection is because it's given us an emotion that lets us know that it's time to connect. This is our alert emotion telling us to seek out and to find connection. And the sole purpose of this connection is to subjectively tell us that we have gone over our alone time quota, which we all have a different quota of alone time, that we need to now refocus and reorientate ourselves, as this need is now prioritized by this alert signal of this emotion. This emotion that we are talking about is what we refer to as loneliness. So loneliness is your biological, physiological, genetically designed signal to connect. Connection is the frequency of being united by our humanity, because our need to feel we belong in the eyes of others is universal. It's also the story that is the most highly manipulated and distorted by us. And so this emotion is translated slightly differently these days, becoming a social mix-up of a measurement of our self-worth. Too quickly we condemn ourselves through these well-rehearsed and well-scripted stories that we mistake as truth. It's the stories that we tell ourselves about how we feel we deserve to be alone, or sometimes the even worse story about how we need to be alone. And when we talk to ourselves about the reasons why we are lonely, or why we deserve loneliness, and why we should be alone, and how loneliness is proof of our self-worth value, then those stories become stronger and held as truth. But all that does is keeps us trapped within our loneliness, because the only thing that cures loneliness is connection. Our society today is facing a global pandemic according to the World Health Organization, and despite there being 8 billion people in this world, we are arguably the loneliness and the most disconnected, not only from each other, but also from ourselves, that we've ever been. And so we feel both connected but disconnected at the same time. But we are wired to seek out people and groups that share the same belief. We will gravitate to people that share the same values. But sometimes it's the same trauma or the same wounds that attract us or even attach us to each other. Being together is not necessarily meaning that we are connecting. We may use our shared experience with our trauma to bind us to each other that we mistake as connection, because that may be the only way we know how to connect. And then we wonder why we're still feeling alone within the space. These days we perceive being popular as being connected, but no matter how many likes, comments, or friends that we have on social media, we're not getting connection, we're getting stats and numbers. And just to give us an extra push to go alongside this genetic warning sign that signals us it's time to connect, we also get a pain response when we don't connect over a period of time, because the brain processes physical and emotional pain in very similar ways. If you look at brain imaging studies, it will show that feeling excluded activates the same brain region that is active during physical pain. So connection isn't just something nice to do. It is a human need, essential for life and for the improvement of our quality of life, individually negotiated as to what connection feels like. In other words, what may be connecting to you may not be connecting to me. The criterias of connection may be different. How we get that need met is very individualized and is measured internally, but this need for connection is universal. So the first myth we're going to break down is that loneliness is not a character flaw. It is not based on what we think we are worth. It is not based on what society thinks we're worth. In fact, it has nothing to do with worth. This works in the same way if your body is dehydrated. It will send you a signal to your brain that we've interpreted as a need to drink water to hydrate yourself. The same with hunger. Your body will send signals to your brain to tell you to hunt out food, to find food sources. so your body can extract the nutrients it needs at that time. Thirst and hunger are our biological call to get these needs met. Loneliness is your biological call to get connected. I hope that makes sense. But when we paste a label of self-worth under the reason why we are lonely, then we stay lonely. We're not allowing ourselves permission to seek out and find connection because of our stories and our scripts giving us permission to stay in loneliness. And all the while, your biology and your humanity literally cry out in pain, yelling at us. And then that pain ends up as being our companion that we share in isolation. And then we confirm our belief by the lack of connections around us that we are right. And so the story repeats with a stronger belief. And if our biological priority is safety and we feel unsafe, our focus will shift to a narrow focus, which will highlight all of the threats around us, perceived or real. We will be spending our time hyper-focusing on the threats. Therefore, we will miss all the opportunities around us to connect, because what we are doing is trying to keep ourselves safe from danger. Your brain is trying the best it can to protect you, to look out for you, to keep you safe. But here's the thing about loneliness long term. It will misinterpret and mark more things around you as unsafe that are actually safe. The opportunity to connect is overshadowed by our hypervigilance because we're looking for all of the potential dangers. We have what is known as the social engagement system. This is our neural biological network that allows us to connect with others when we feel safe or in order to be safe. The social engagement system allows us to engage socially with other people. It turns off our fight or flight response and activates our rest and recover response. So what does this mean? Our social engagement are not just important, but an essential ingredient for our well-being. It is impossible to activate the social engagement system and be in a state of high alert where your fight or flight system is constantly on as you look for threats around you. So when we talk about socializing or connecting, we're not saying that you have to connect with every single person that comes into your environment, that you have to make everybody your soulmate or pledge your everlasting love to everybody that comes into your world. You will connect with different people at different levels in different situations. And this depends on the parameters that you define that particular relationship to be. In other words, the connection you have with the dairy owner will be different to the connection you have with your partner or family or friends or workmates. But this need for connection goes beyond connecting with people. It also includes how we connect to ourselves. This, for most of us, is a life mission. A journey that takes us places long forgotten and deeply buried, but it compels us to seek out this authentic connection within us that helps us answer the question that we're all driven to find the answer to. Who am I? This deeper part of us that we may have learnt to disconnect from in exchange for safety or approval or love or acceptance. We did a whole episode on being authentic, so if you haven't heard that one, then go and listen to that. And for many people, it may be easier to connect to other things first, before humans. Maybe we've been hurt by people, but we still have this need to connect. So for some people, connecting to your environment is easier than connecting to people at this moment. And you can connect to your authenticity through connecting to your environments. So this may be things like being in nature. It could be what you feel when you go hiking or walking, when you feel connected to the earth and to nature and to your surroundings. But maybe connection to animals is easier. And most of us will know the unspoken bond and connection between animals and humans. I personally have a view that the animals that we call pets are a gateway to be able to find the connection to ourselves. To be able to sit with and be with animals allows us to connect to something that we may not find easy to get to with humans as easy. There's types of therapy called animal-assisted therapy. These are ways to help people cope with and recover from physical or mental health conditions using animals. There are therapy cats, therapy dogs for depression and anxiety. There's even equine therapy or horse therapy. So some of the benefits of animal therapy is it provides companionship, it decreases loneliness, it increases social interactions, it improves our general well-being, decreases anxiety and stress, even decreases the perception of pain, and increases feelings of social support. This can often cross over and intertwine into human connections as well. So for instance, owning a dog and walking can increase the chances of people stopping to engage with you as well as the animal. If you go to puppy classes or dog obedience training, you have that shared interest. So animals have a beautiful way to connect us together. Here's a story that you're probably familiar with about the unspoken atmosphere of connection. It occurred to Pooh and Piglet that they hadn't heard from Eeyore for several days. So they put on their hats and coats and went over to Eeyore's house. Inside the house was Eeyore. "Hello, Eeyore," said Pooh. "Hello, Pooh. Hello, Piglet," said Eeyore in a glum-sounding voice. "We just thought we'd check on you," said Piglet, "because we haven't heard from you, and so we just want to know if you're okay." Eeyore was silent for a moment. "Am I okay?" he asked eventually. "Well, I don't know. To be honest, are any of us really okay? All I can tell you is that right now I'm feeling rather sad and alone and not much fun to be around at all, which is why I haven't bothered you, because you wouldn't want to waste your time with someone who is sad and alone and not much fun to be around at all." Pooh looked at Piglet, Piglet looked at Pooh, and they sat down together on either side of Eeyore in his stick house. Eeyore looked at them in surprise. "What are you doing?" he asked. "We're sitting with you because we are your friends. And true friends don't care if someone is feeling sad or alone or not much fun to be around at all. True friends are there for you anyway. And so here we are." "Oh," said Eeyore, and the three of them sat there in silence. And while they said nothing at all, somehow Eeyore started to feel a little tiny bit better because they were there. So maybe we don't have a Winnie the Pooh or Piglet connection like that. But man, that sounds good, doesn't it? To be in a space where you're heard, you're valued, and you're understood. To be accepted as you are within this atmosphere that goes beyond words, where no words are spoken, but everything that needs to be said is said. If you have a pet, then you will find moments like this with them, because we can share in these unspoken moments. You know what else I like about this story? Is that Winnie the Pooh and Piglet sat where he was, where Eeyore was. They didn't ask him to go and make an effort to come to them. They moved into his space. There's something really powerful when we know that the person sitting with us, with our raw emotions, with our vulnerability, with our psychological wounds showing, can meet us where we are, can accept us where we are, without that performance criteria of having to be in a better emotional space first before you're accepted. And that sense of belonging as you are right now is very freeing. Brené Brown has this beautiful quote and definition about connection. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and they derive substance and strength from the relationship. So the basis of connection is the feeling that we are seen and heard and accepted. So how can we find connections? You can find connections in more places than you're noticing. It doesn't have to take up a lot of time. You don't have to display the intensity of your vulnerability all the time. So let me give you an example. If you were to walk down the main street of where you're living, the chances are you'll be walking past a lot of people that wouldn't say hi to you. But if you were to take those same people and transport them into nature, like a walking track or public walk or a lake, suddenly you're going to have people that will 9 times out of 10 say hi to you as you're walking past them. That simple act of saying hi to people as you walk past is what we call a micro moment of connection. It's a small but significant human-to-human contact that says, I see you and I acknowledge you. I often encourage people who live with anxiety, instead of isolating themselves in their home that denies them connection spaces but intensifies their connection needs, to go for a walk in nature where you're passing people. And a simple hi said with meaning and that acknowledges another person being seen and validated and heard will be very connecting to your authentic nature. And that moment in time has a deep, lasting impact with us. We can also connect through shared experiences, through a shared sense of humanity. And we can see this shared connection through shared humanity in the face of catastrophe or disaster. This is where our differences are put aside and our bonds of humanity become more deeply connected. For some of us, it may mean that the only way we feel we can connect is through the pain of fear and anxiety. And this is where we start to confuse attachments to connections. The attachments we have to people are both healthy or unhealthy. The difference is what you are using to attach to others. If what you are using to attach to others is fear-based, wound-based, pain or anxiety-based attachment, then what you use to bond to other people will have a narrative like, I need to do what I can do to keep this attachment because without it, I am, insert negative comment there. The rule is, if it's fear-based connection, it is a scared-based attachment. It's attached by the grip of fear or pain or anxiety. This may lead us to find connections with people that share the same frequency as the wounds that we share with them. And maybe we connect to people who share that same psychological wound as us. But when you attach in a healthy way, this is called secure attachment. This is where a deeper connection happens, not from fear or anxiety. We could go into a whole episode on its own about these types of connection styles, and maybe we will in future episodes. But the takeaway from this is that the more secure the non-fear or attach-based connection is, the more genuine and authentic that connection becomes. And there's no greater sense of connection than when your authentic nature, your true self, bonds with the humanity of someone else. That depth of connection is unable to be put into words and expressed. We have more in common than what we see from our differences. Every single one of us is heading in the same direction. We're just reading from different maps, traveling on different paths, but we're all wanting the same things. To feel safe, to feel secure in that safety, to feel that we belong in our connections, to be heard, to be seen, to be understood, and to be loved. And so part of our job as a human being is to find who we are authentically underneath the layers of protection that we've wrapped around ourselves to try and keep ourselves safe, and then to be able to live out that authentic part of us. But if we've been taught in our younger years that connection is dangerous, that it means I will be hurt, because that means I will be unsafe, I still have a need to connect. I can't get away from this biological need. This is my nature. This is your nature. This is our nature. No one teaches us this when we're born, or how to get it. And if we don't know how to find connection in a healthy way, then we'll find any way that we can that will at least mimic connection, to at least give us a moment of relief to stop that hunger pain that we may have paired up with other emotions like rejection, humiliation, shame, or even unforgiveness. Each of us have what we call a connection quota, an amount of connection that fits and suits us. So we all have a quota of connection. That part is non-negotiable. How much we need, though, is individual and subjective. And you are the only one that can answer that question. If I asked you, do you prefer to be alone? What kind of feelings does that bring up for you? Because for some people, being alone is terrifying. Maybe the association of being alone brings with it the idea that being alone is unbearable, that being alone may be seen as proof of how we don't fit into society, or that we are separated by our imperfections, or by the criteria of approval that society tells us, or any other self-condemning scripts that we have. So in these cases, being around people may not be for the sake of connection, but for the purpose of avoiding that continuing emotion that we don't want to feel. For some other people, being alone is sought out with the same enthusiasm and focus as the person who needs to be around people. The state of being alone, which is just the act of being alone, is what we call solitude. In future episodes, we'll go into a little bit deeper why solitude is important, particularly from an introverted point of view. But for the sake of this episode, just know that being alone, the initial stages of being alone, is called solitude, a nice place to be. Every single one of us, though, has a different criteria of how much solitude time you need. This will vary not only from person to person, but what situation you're in, how much energy you have, your environment, and your lifestyle. But there will always be a time when being alone feels a little bit more uncomfortable than before. This uncomfortableness is your biological calling card that is telling you that you need to connect through this emotion that we call loneliness. It is telling you to go and find your social outlets and avenue to mix with people, nature, or animals, but to get that connection met. If we ignore this social need and stay in solitude, we're now in isolation. And the only thing that cures isolation is connection, is listening to the call that your biology, your humanity, your authentic self is telling you to do. This is often easier to get these needs met through these micro moments of connection. Some more examples about micro moments of connection would be letting someone in traffic if you're driving. It could be opening the door for somebody. It could be finding every opportunity around you to help people. Micro moments are brief interactions of connection without feeling that you're exposing too much of your vulnerability. So you can do these often and do these with purpose. And the more you practice these, the more you will get better at them. So that's all I've got for this episode. Thank you for joining me today. And I hope that you've got something useful from this discussion. And if you have any questions you would like us to discuss on future episodes, then please email me at rethinkingmentalwellbeing@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. So until then, go well, go in peace, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
This Free FM podcast was brought to you with support from New Zealand On Air.